Today we are going to solve for what are called literal equations. Literal is when you're not going to get a number value for an answer like we have been because you don't have enough information. So you're solving for a letter, which basically is rearranging. So we're not really solving today, we're rearranging. Now what we've been doing is something like this, where we would solve for x. Here's x. I want to isolate it on this side of the equal sign. Right now there's an 8 and a 3 I have to get rid of. I always get rid of what's attached to x last. Just makes my work prettier and easier. So I want to do the opposite of the 8. I want to subtract it. That leaves me with 3x equals 12. To get rid of the 3, I divide. X equals 4. I have a nice pretty answer. But today we're doing something like this, where I have two letters and I want to solve for A. So I'm not going to get a nice pretty answer. My goal is to isolate A. How do I isolate A? Well, if you look at this, what did I do? I took away the added value divided by the one attached to x. So do the same thing here. Take away the B. Now the difference is I can't actually take B from 20. That would be saying 20 pencils minus a stapler. We can't do that. They're totally different things. They are not like terms. I can't actually subtract. So what do? Just write it down. I'm not actually subtracting. I can't really get a number. I'm just writing it down. So really, I'm just moving it. I'm just rearranging. Same thing here. If I divide by 3, I have to divide the whole side by 3. What I do to one side of the equal sign, I must do to the other. So I just divide the whole side. I can't really divide that. I just write it down. There's my answer. I have solved for A. I've accomplished what they told me to. Solve for A. I've gotten A by itself. I just rearranged where A was isolated. My nephew's an engineering major at A&M, and I told him this weekend that I would be teaching this today. And he said, "Oh, that is so important." So it really is. It's important in science, and when you have a formula, that's when it's the most important, is when you're given a formula and you need to rearrange it to solve for a certain letter. So let's look at another one side by side to what we've been doing. If I wanted to solve this, I'd want to isolate x, and so I divide by 8, and I get that x is 3. Now over here, my goal is to solve for t. I want to isolate t. So what I did here was I divided by anything multiplied to it that I wanted to get rid of. What's multiplied by t that I want to get rid of? Isn't it I and r? Don't I want to get rid of I and r? So I divide by them. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. I'm finished. I can't actually divide a P by an I and an R. There. I rearranged. I rewrote it. There's my answer. I have accomplished my purpose. I have solved for T. So let's do two more just to make sure we know what we're doing. This one's just like the one we did. I made my letters in cursive because that L would look like a 1 if I didn't. So V, volume, you should recognize this. Volume equals length times width times height. What if I wanted to solve for W? I want to isolate W. These things, there's imaginary multiply. These things are multiplied. To get rid of something multiplied, I do the opposite. I divide. They're gone. I have W by itself. But what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So what's my answer? V over LH equals W. I cannot simplify that any further. I cannot get a nice, pretty number. I do not have enough information. That's why it's called a literal equation. We're just solving for a letter. We're not solving, we're rearranging. We're moving things around. We're isolating a certain variable. So here I want to isolate C. Where's C? Right there. I want it by itself on this side of the equal sign. Right now it has two things added to it. To get rid of things added, we do the opposite. We subtract them. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. These are not alike. I can't really take A and B away from D, so I just write it down. I just moved them. I rearranged. I accomplished my purpose. I solved for C.